Truth, thank you for that powerful story. Most of the women in here have such an amazing story. I feel like some of the things that you guys have been through is, my life does not even compare. Um, but I would like to introduce myself. My name is Serena Thomas. I'm 49 years old. I have two children. I'm divorced. I graduated from FIT and I live here in Miami. I'm going to take you on a journey through Belize, through Mexico, finally landing in the Florida Keys. My story is one of divorce and dating and dreams. And I would like to encourage you to believe in yourself against all the odds and arrive at a destination you once thought was impossible. My childhood was not planned. At the tender age of 10 months old, my mom took me to live with my grandmother. My mother was living in the United States at the time and was completely out of her element. She had ran away from home in Belize after discovering she was pregnant with my older sister out of wedlock. Shortly after arriving in the US and having my sister, she had another child, which was me. She took me and my older sister to the third world country of Belize to live temporarily with my grandmother, her mother. The goal was for her to get her life in a steady position and to be able to work full time and take care of two young children and then return to get us to live with her. My childhood was filled with fear. My grandfather was very miserable and seemingly angry most of the time. He was sometimes physically abusive and seemed to have a hatred in his eyes when I was around him. I believe I reminded him of my mother, who in his eyes was a huge disgrace to the family since she had us out of wedlock. We were the bastard children he had to raise. My grandmother did the best she could to provide a loving home for us. She cooked, cleaned, brought us up in the church. We never received a lot of affection, but I believe we were raised in a very wise way by all the women in our family. My aunts were very involved in community and leadership, so I grew up watching them as models, and I consider them to be great examples of what women should be. My sister and I were shuffled around between homes, sometimes with my grandmother, sometimes with one of my two aunts. I felt like I was an inconvenience, even though that may not have been the intention. And I was always looking at the other children thinking, especially the little girls, what do they have that I don't have? Why did my mom not love me enough to take care of me? I grew up with so much questions and low self-esteem. Living in a third world country was very tough. The homes, the people was all very scary for me. Because of the age gap with my grandmother and I, it was very hard to get close to her. And it was difficult to do anything except to try to just be a good girl and not get into trouble. I moved at 16 to the United States with only a suitcase and a dream. I thought if I can get away from this third world country and get to the United States and get to live with my mom, everything would be amazing. This dream had haunted me all throughout my childhood, and I felt that I was old enough to try to get there on my own. To get to the United States, I had only one possible route, Mexico. I traveled through Mexico for a week. It was quite the adventure. Traveling from Belize to the United States on the bus was long and rugged. The adventures including getting stopped by and searched by the local police, getting detained, wining and dining in the finest restaurants in Mexico, traveling again through the cartel roads, getting past several robbers, and finally arriving at the US border. Although this seemed like it would have been a scary thing for a 16-year-old, I embraced the adventure because I was off to the United States to see my mom and nothing could stop me. Once I arrived at the US border, I then rode the bus from the Texas border all the way to the Florida Keys with tons of emotions, not knowing what to expect, but thinking everything would be wonderful once I reunited with my mom. It was wonderful for a brief period. There was lots of food and so much to discover about the United States. The culture was different. It was like I was living a dream. The streets were paved. There was at least 10 different types of apples, and it was only 99 cents a pound for them. The music was different, not like reggae, but still fun. I loved everything about this new land. I loved learning from everyone around me how to sound, look, and act like an American. It was delightful. It slowly became evident, though, that my relationship with my mom would only be like sisters, kind of, not what I expected. I came to the United States to get closer to my mother, to get to know her, to build a relationship with her, but unconsciously, I wanted to get to know who I was. She was the missing piece to who I was, and I had to get to her to get to me. Without knowing who she was, I felt like I would never know who I was and couldn't move forward in life. I also wanted to know why she didn't raise me, what was wrong with me. There was this huge void that plagued me every day of my life, and I longed to get close to her, to find out these questions, and questions I didn't even know I had. I was disappointed when I arrived and expected her to be a loving mother type like my grandmother who was raising me, but she wasn't. She was very independent, had a career and friends, and lived very carefree. She loved to dance and have fun with us kids, but knew nothing of being a mother. So I became a mom and wife at 19. I needed the bond of a partner, and I had that. It filled the void that was still there, the void that said, you don't have a mom, and now you don't have a home to go back to. You're here in the United States. My ex husband was from Belize, so we had that in common. It was the only thing that tied me to my past life. Becoming a mom was very scary because I had no one to help or guide me. God only knows how I made it from day to day. I turned pain into power, but my childhood traumas haunted me. So at 20 years old, I found myself with a 1-year-old son, a husband, and the anger and disappointment my mother had, and our relationship had risen to the point where I found myself in a position I call midnight in the garden of good and evil. I wanted to be the best of the best. I didn't care if that meant being the best in a good way or a bad way. I was going to be amazingly good or amazingly bad. This was when the woman that changed my life forever met me in the crossroads in that proverbial garden. A woman by the name of Betty Thomas believed in me, but more importantly, she taught me that God loved me. I remember her telling me things like, "You're a princess of the Most High. If you were the only person on earth, Jesus would still have died for you." Over the course of about 6 months, she slowly breathed life into a shell of soul. She showed me unconditional love, and for the first time in my life, I started to believe I could become something. She made me feel smart. She encouraged me to go to college, to eat healthy, to work out, to love myself. It was a slow, awkward process, but I was hungry for the attention and enjoyed learning about being positive and positive thoughts. She believed in me, and slowly I began to believe in myself. So I decided to go to college. My thought process was I could be somebody. Otherwise, other people would think I'm somebody. I wanted to just be somebody. If I could just pull this off, then maybe I would be recognized as somebody. I graduated with honors from the prestigious Florida Institute of Technology. My mom did not make it to the ceremony. By then, I had learned to live without her. I knew my life would have to be built without her approval. My life would have to be built on my own power, and I continued to build my family on that. My marriage was typical, ups and downs, and ended when I was 36 years old. At 36 years old, I found myself divorced and never worked to provide for myself ever. This was like moving to the United States all over again. No experience, no history, no idea what to do, and no one to rely on. I prayed like I never prayed before in my life for God to help me to make it. I cried myself to sleep so many nights and did everything possible to not let my children worry about how we were going to make it. I told myself, all you have to do is get through one day at a time. In some ways, I felt all the trials I had been through prior to my divorce had prepared me for this big moment, the biggest trial of my life, the time I would have to really rely only on myself and God. I had 2 casual friends, and that was about it. No one else to help emotionally, financially, or otherwise. I decided I would have to make it. I would have to pull every ounce of power that I had learned to use from my past experiences to make it through and create a future for myself and my 2 teenage children. My ex left me penniless. I had to go crawling to my mom to help me. She barely had anything, but she did her best. I got a job after about 3 months. I then spent 6 years as a senior media executive. I would pray every day for God to help give me clients to help me stay employed. My boss was always wanting to fire me. She knew I had all the talent and all the skills, just lacked the experience of being a full-time employee and having to punch a clock at 8 a.m. every morning. I could feel God's hand involved with her heart to work with me. The only thing that saved me is somehow I always made my quota and my bonus. When I was on probation, somehow the blessings would just show up and I would exceed my quota necessary to keep me hired. It was definitely a faith walk every day. After 6 years, I had the confidence that I would be okay and would be able to provide for myself and my 2 children. I was able to provide a great life for us. During these 6 years, I also pursued acting at the local theater. This filled my heart with unmeasured joy. I was fortunate to be cast in play after play for 2 consecutive years, doing a total of 6 plays back to back, and establishing myself as quite the actor. It gave me a refuge from dating and provided me with the fun I needed in my life. My friends from work all came to see me. I got such rave reviews that after just 6 years and saving plenty of money, I decided to take a little time off from work and pursue acting. I spent 2 years pursuing acting until the money ran out. These years were the most fun I have ever had in my life. Acting was a natural for me, and I was in such a place of peace and purpose when I was on stage or in front of a camera. I felt a calling to it, but I realized that if I were to stay in Florida, there would be no money in acting. So I came back to reality and got a job as a senior sales executive at Canon for a year, left that to work for US Health Advisor as a health insurance agent, rose to the ranks of being number 10 in the country during the end of the first year, got promoted and offered the opportunity to help open up the brand new office in Miami, and I've been here ever since. Going back to the time of the divorce, dating for the first time at 36 was like being a fish out of water. Although I was very interested in finding love again, I also wanted to use this time to be alone and learn about life on my own. It was very difficult being alone for such a long period of time. I dated a little bit here and there, but nothing serious. I didn't seem to have much luck in that department. Perhaps subconsciously, I was sabotaging myself because I really wanted to have the time where I wasn't trying to please anyone. Not my grandmother, not my mom, not a husband. I loved learning how to be independent, even though it was incredibly scary and full of trials. I did make a lot of friends and became a single, thriving mom. I am now fortunate to live in a beautiful condo overlooking the Biscayne Bay in downtown Miami. My business is flourishing, my children are well, my friendships are solid, and my past is my foundation. I am a confident businesswoman who feels there is nothing in life I cannot overcome. The dream is manifested. My mom and I were able to create a beautiful relationship until she died 5 years ago. We were as close as any mother and daughter could be, given our experiences. It broke my heart when she died, but I was also grateful that we had 10 years together and many beautiful memories. My story is one of a die-hard hopeful. It's one that ends well. I learned to embrace the unexpected. When we are young, we live fearlessly. We don't have any fears. I'd like to encourage each and every one of you listening to find the strength within, even when you can't see it. Let nothing stop you. Look back at the girl within you and talk to her. Tell her she's going to be a badass. She's beautiful. She's powerful. But most importantly, she's loved more than she ever knows. And that if God loves her enough to send his son to die for her, then the least she can do is live a life that was worth saving. No matter what she thinks of herself in the moment, she can get past it and use it as a stepping stone. Go back to the carefree person you were. Make your story your own, the direction you would like to go into, the path you want to take. And when you find yourself in the garden at midnight and you feel all alone, I pray God sends you an angel to guide you out, to guide you to the right path, to bring out the best in you, to show you unconditional love. But most importantly, how to love yourself like never before. Look for examples of your success from the past. The breadcrumbs of your past exist to show you how far you have come and to light up the future with new possibilities. You manifested your past success. You need to go back to being that teenager, that person that lives with just a suitcase and a dream. Live fearlessly and see what you can accomplish. The pieces will fill themselves in. They always do. You will win. You will lose sometimes, but you will bounce back and you will be proud of everything you accomplish. But most importantly, you will become proud of who you become and know that it doesn't matter how you started, but how you finish.